This is a podcast of 98FM's Dublin Talks. Remember, catch the show live Monday to Friday at 10 a.m.
98FM's Dublin Talks with Adrian Kennedy.
98FM.
Jenny, you're on 98FM. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Fascinating what you used to do, because you used to work in a transitional housing unit. Explain what that is, please, but don't name the unit if you don't mind.
I won't. It was for people who were either homeless for a variety of reasons, or else for people who had left prison and didn't have a home to go to. So we would house them for, it could be a number of days, weeks, months,
Okay.
up to anything up to 4 years.
Now, in this transitional housing unit, was it in Dublin?
Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
it was in Dublin.
City centre. Yeah.
Okay, in the city centre. Is it fairly? No, again, I don't want to know what road it's on. I don't want to know anything about it. But is it fairly low key? Would you walk by it and not know that it was there?
Yes, yeah, you could. You wouldn't know what it is yet. Doesn't
So-
look like a house anyway. That's put it that way.
Okay, so you could walk by it and you wouldn't know what was going on in it. Okay,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
in this centre, in the centre that you were working in, this transitional housing centre, there were several sex offenders there. Is that correct?
Yes, there was.
How many at one time were staying in this unit?
5
Five
was
sex
the max, yeah.
five sex
They'd
offenders.
be like of a variety of offences, from something that could, I suppose, be called like a minor to major,
So we're talking. You were working with serious sex offence.
Some of them would have been, yeah.
Every sex offence is serious,
You
by the way.
reading their file, yeah.
Like how bad are we talking? Are we?
We had someone, I won't make anything that can identify him, but he had abused his children like severely, and he was barred from the area that the children lived in once he was released from prison.
So we're talking the sickest of the sick here.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Gross, sick individual.
What was it like having to go to work and be close to these people?
It was very uncomfortable, and to try and be professional at the same time, to keep your emotions masked was difficult, but
No,
was a job
and you had access to the crimes that they'd committed, obviously, so you knew exactly what crimes they had committed.
Yeah, we'd get usually the forms from their file from the prison service, which would go into detail.
And one of them that was there at the time you were there had sexually abused his children.
Yes, sons and daughters.
Sorry?
Sons and daughters.
Sons and daughters.
Yeah, so
Now,
it would have been...
The most shocking part of your story is about the curfew. So they all had a curfew, is that correct?
No, not all of them. Some of them had conditions to being released, which they just had a blatant disregard for. It meant nothing to them. It wasn't worth the paper it was written on. Okay,
so there's a lot of people, including myself, because I've never spoken to someone like you who's worked in one of these places. Some of them, the conditions of their bail when the conditions of when they've done their time and they get out, is that a lot of them have curfews.
Yeah.
And what you're saying is they all broke the curfews. Is that right?
Absolutely, yeah. And they also had other conditions, such as they would refrain from drinking alcohol or being in a public house. Things to that, like.
And obviously one of the conditions as well was that they couldn't go into an area where the children that they had abused were living, I assume.
Exactly, yeah. A lot of them had other conditions, whereas they couldn't be within, say, 500 metres. I can't remember if it was exactly 500 metres of a school, of parks, places where children would congregate like that. They weren't allowed to be hanging around,
And are you saying that a lot of them broke these conditions and rules?
I'm not saying a lot of them, I'm saying all of them.
All of them?
All of them.
Jeez,
had a complete disregard. And when you think of a paedophile or a sex offender, I think everyone has an image in their head. It's not that. That's not the case at all. I've worked with guys who are in their early 20s who have maybe 3 convictions for the same crime. They look as mild-mannered and polite, and what they talk about like a wolf in sheep's clothing. You can't tell a sex offender.
Okay, so there's this image of a sex offender that we all have of, the long raincoat, the sweaty face, the unclean look, someone who looks like a predator. And what you're saying is a lot of the sex offenders that you've come across did not fit that profile at all.
No, they did not. No. You'd get the odd creep, like he'd look like a creep and he is a creep, but the majority of them, no.
One of the other scary aspects of this in the unit you worked in is that at times when they did break their curfew, when these sex offenders did break their curfew, you would call the guards and report it. And what would happen then?
I'm not saying every time, but I'd say majority of the time the guards would be so rushed off their feet and so busy that they'd say, we will get to you when we can. But it might not even be the same day that we're ringing them.
What? So you would ring a Garda station
and say he hasn't come home. Usually the curfew, they might have to be inside in their where they're living from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. and it could be like 9 o'clock and we'd be ringing to say no sign for hours, Hang on, I'm trying to get my head around this. So a sex offender who's on a curfew and has to be indoors by 7 o'clock for obvious reasons, has to be in. It's 9 o'clock and there's still no sign of this sex offender. You ring the guards and say, such and such, I'm ringing from this unit, such and such is a sex offender and is on a curfew. It's 9 o'clock now. He was supposed to be in at 7 o'clock. He's nowhere to be seen. And the guards wouldn't act on it straight away. No, absolutely not, no.
How frustrating is that for you? And how
immensely frustrating. But so, what can we do? Like, what are we supposed to do? Where do you even start looking for him? And what is he doing that he has to break his curfew?
Absolutely. So, getting back to this conversation, how do you feel about the right to know the names and addresses of these people and where they're living?
Well, I have children now. When I was working there, I didn't. But I think the thought of one of them being in my neighbourhood or having even the ability to look at one of my kids sickens me, But I do think it is shifting the responsibility of keeping track of these from the guards and so on to the public, And
one final question. I don't want to land too much on you, but one final question, because this comes up quite a bit, and you would know a lot more than most people because most of us never come in contact, well, not knowingly anyway, most of us never come in contact with paedophiles and sex offenders. As someone who has worked closely with these people, do you believe that they can be cured?
No, I think paedophilia is like a sexuality.
It is,
you're born that way.
Yeah, that's how I believe. What I believe as well.
I think they'll talk the talk if it's going to make their life easier, but you can't change how you feel. I'm straight. I could pretend to be gay, but I wouldn't really be.
So you've seen these people after they've done their time. Some of them have gone for treatment. Others have refused. A lot of them refused to get treatment. And after you having conversations with these people, you believe that the vast majority of these convicted sex offenders who've got out of prison and done their time are on probation, you believe that they haven't changed at all?
Absolutely.
It's terrifying, isn't it?
It's terrifying. What is the solution? Like, what do you do with these people?
Yeah, that's the $1 million question. Jenny, thanks very much for your honesty and talking to us on 98FM's Dublin Talks.
Thanks, Emil.
Cheers, bye-bye. There is an interesting but terrifying insight into what happens with sex offenders once they're released. A lot of you don't realise what happens. They do their time and then they get out. What happens to them then? But you've heard from that woman herself who's worked closely with them. She does not believe that they can be cured.
This is a podcast of 98FM's Dublin Talks. Remember, catch the show live Monday to Friday at 10 a.m.
98FM's Dublin Talks with Adrian Kennedy.
98FM.